Hi there, my name is Allison Dillard. I'm a math professor, author, and mom of three. If you're a parent, check out my Raise a Math Person membership where I walk parents through 5 steps to make math easier and less stressful for the family. Registration for that closes on Friday, and I'll put the link to register in the comments. Now, today I'm so excited to welcome best-selling author Rachel Richards. All right, you can download her free passive income starter kit at moneyhoneyrachel.com/bonus, and I'll leave the link for that in the comments as well. Okay, so one of the strongest reasons why you want your kids to kick ass in math is so that they can grow up to be financially free like Rachel Richards. Okay, she's 27 years old. She is a former financial advisor who's made a name for herself in the personal finance realm. All right, in 2019, Rachel quit her job and retired with over $10,000 a month in passive income. She's the best-selling author of two of my favorite books, Money Honey and Passive Income Aggressive Retirement. She's been featured in like The Penny Hoarder and the New York Times. She's also a real estate investor with like 35 rental units. And her valuable money lessons have helped thousands of millennials work their way out of financial despair. And she's successfully done what no one has really done before, which is to make the topic of money management fun and entertaining and simple. Rachel, welcome. I'm so excited to have you here.
Hey, Allison, thank you. Thank you so much for the intro. I'm excited to talk to you.
So, what you've done is something that every parent, myself included, wishes that they would have done in their 20s. And it's something that every parent would also love to be able to teach their kids. So, can you just walk us through like how you got to retire in your 20s with $10,000 of passive monthly income?
Yes. So the encouraging thing about my journey is that I accomplished this in a short period of time, like 2 or 3 years. So in the beginning of 2017, I had $0 in passive income. That year, my husband and we invested in our first rental property. It was a duplex. And then later that year, I published my first book, my first best-selling book, Money Honey. So we had these two passive income streams, rental income and royalty income. And we focused on growing these as much as we possibly could over the next few years. So fast forward to today, we now own almost 40 rental units, and I just launched my second book last year. So that put us over the $10,000 a month mark. Actually, we got there last year, and then I was able to quit my job and retire. And when I say retire, I just mean I have become financially independent.
Right, right. You're not the financial advisor anymore, right?
Yes.
That's so cool. So, what inspired you to do this actually?
There were a few things. Growing up, I was I grew up in a really wealthy county, and all of my peers were, they were getting new cars on their 16th birthday. They were going on cool trips with their family. I mean, literally, yeah, my high school, when people turned 16, a lot of them got brand new BMWs.
Okay.
And I kind of felt like I didn't fit in because I was not I was not getting a brand new BMW. My family was on a budget. We weren't taking like lavish vacations, things like that. So I felt I didn't fit in, which is not the way you want to feel in middle school, right?
Right.
And in high school. So I began to learn about money management and get really excited and learn how I could become wealthy. And I just remember thinking, like, I don't want to end up like everyone else. I don't want to have to operate on a strict budget my whole life. I don't want to have to borrow money from family and friends to make it to my next paycheck. I wanted to be different. And I realized that what I did then at a young age would either set me up for wealth or for poverty. So that's when I started taking it seriously and wanted to retire early and become financially independent.
Oh, that makes a lot of sense. That's yeah, definitely a good motivation right there. And I'm trying to think, what is your do you have a background in math at all? Like
Yeah, somewhat. So I've always been a nerd at heart. So not just the finance,
you're
but I've
not
always
alone. You're not alone.
yeah. I've always loved math as well. So in high school, I think like in the advanced track, and I took AP calculus, I took AP physics, and really enjoyed those subjects. And the benefit of that was that I went into college as a second semester freshman and almost a sophomore
Okay.
because I had all these AP credits. So then I was kind of ahead in college as well. I didn't minor in math in college. I almost did. I was like 1 or 2 classes short. So I still kept up with the math classes in college as well. And then, of course, throughout my experience as a financial advisor and real estate investor, I have had to use math like every single day.
Yeah. And so if I could just draw like one attention to like one of the little things that you said, which I love, is that you almost majored in math, right? I
Yes.
don't know. I just, well, of course, because I'm always on here talking about math, right? And I feel like
Minored. Maybe I said majored. I almost minored in
almost
math.
minored in math. Sorry, that's what I meant. Yeah. Almost minored in math. But I think it's really important, right? Because a lot of people might have the motivation to do what you've done,
It's frozen. I don't know if you can hear me.
Oh, yes, I can hear you. Yes, you did freeze
Okay,
for a
sorry.
second.
Keep going.
Hopefully you're okay. Hopefully it's okay.
No, I got it. I can hear now.
But what I was going to say is that a lot of people might have the motivation to try to do what you've done, but I think the fact that like you have really solid math foundations probably made everything that you've done easier or more doable, right?
Yeah, for sure. And here's an example of that. I've always wanted to invest in real estate, even since I was in high school and college. And I learned a ton. I got my real estate license, but then actually making the investment, it's pretty scary. So I had to learn how to do all sorts of analysis before I even bought the property. So I was estimating the rental revenue and all the expenses and the return on investment and doing all these different formulas to see if this would be a good investment. And without having the math background that I had, that part of the process would have been a lot more difficult.
Yeah.
So it definitely is something that has helped me throughout my entire career and my entire journey.
Yeah, and when you're talking about like the personal finance stuff, you want to be able to do those things on your own. I think lots of times people just they say, "Oh, well, I can hire someone to do that. I can hire someone to do that." But then, especially like when you're in your 20s and you're maybe not able to just hire someone to manage your finances yet, right? You being able, I don't know, having enough math under your belt, right? Or being comfortable enough with math, right? Allows you to do all those different calculations.
Yeah, I mean, you might, if you're young, like you said, you might not be able to afford to hire somebody. So then
Yeah.
you have to be your own advocate. You have to understand, what's my income? What's my after tax income? How much should I put into savings and debt and investing and do all these different calculations? And even when you're older and maybe you do want to hire somebody like a financial advisor, you still want to have the basic fundamental understanding because you still want to be able to advocate for yourself. So either way, it's essential.
Exactly. And you can't necessarily advocate for yourself if you don't understand what it is that they're doing, right? You want
Exactly.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. So, no, I love that you almost minored in math. I think that's that's the key. So often, right? Is because, even though like you might have done like AP calculus and done some of like the college level math, right? And you might not be doing calculus, right, at all with your investments. It's all algebra. But the fact that like you went through calculus and you did all that math makes all of those calculations that you end up having to do just easier.
Yeah, I mean, I was actually going to be an engineer, so that's why I took AP Physics in high school. I was going to
Nice.
start out in engineering because I didn't know what else to do, and I was good at it. And even though I didn't become an engineer, I'm grateful for those AP Physics classes and having that AP Calculus background because there's so much theoretical mathematical knowledge that is A, interesting to me, and B, I still like make observations in real life, like calculus observations, where I'm like, oh yeah, that reminds me of that time in high school. So I still love having that background in math.
That's great. So what are some tips that you have for people? Like if they're just getting started, they're not financially independent yet, like where do you start with all of this?
Well, definitely the place to start is budgeting. And I used to hate the idea of budgeting. I know it sounds like tedious and overwhelming and everything, but the way I look at it is budgeting is like having a GPS. You have to have a GPS or a map to get you from point A to point B. So right now, if you're in point A, you're not happy with your finances, or maybe you're happy, but eventually you want to get to point B where you're financially independent. Your budget is kind of like your roadmap to get there. So you absolutely have to track your expenses, know where your money is going. The first time my husband and I tracked our expenses, we realized we spent over $900 in 1 month on food, like just groceries, not even eating out. And I was like, oh my gosh, that is more than some people's mortgage payment. So trust me, it will be very obvious where to cut back once you start tracking. And then another tip I would give people is to just think about if you're trying to increase the amount of money you're saving. I often ask this question at workshops or when I'm teaching, and I'll say, hey, what do you do to save more money quickly in a short period of time? And often people will say, well, I'll eat out less, or I won't shop, or I'll make my coffee at home. And all those are great answers. I realized after a while that some of these answers had a common theme. We were all focused on decreasing our expenses. And that is absolutely important because you have to live below your means.
Yes.
But there's only so much you can do to decrease your expenses, right? You can't stop paying for food. You can't stop paying your rent or your mortgage. So there's kind of a limit on how much you can do there. So what I always tell people is, hey, there's two ways to save more money. Number one is to decrease your expenses. And number two is to increase your income. And for whatever reason, our minds just don't automatically go there.
Yeah.
But the beautiful thing about increasing your income is there's no cap on how much money you can make in a year, right? There's nothing stopping you from making more money. So I always tell people, if you want to make the biggest impact with your budget or really save aggressively, then focus on both. Decrease your expenses and increase your income.
Definitely. And I think that increasing your income one, people hesitate with that because usually it requires a change, right? You've got to, if you're going to start, you have to figure out what it is that you're going to do, right, to start generating income. But I think that can be a really fun process too, because, if it's on the side, you really can make that whatever you want it to be, right? Like what related to something that you love, and honestly, they say Americans watch so much TV. There's time in the day, right, to put towards that also.
Yes, it's so funny you said that because I've gone through periods where I have not been able to manage my time well. And I'll go through and I'll just track my time. And TV, I just never realize how much time I'm spending watching TV. So if I'm ever like, okay, I want to make more money, I want to increase my income, the first thing I do is like, I'm going to take a break from TV for a week. I'm going to see where that gets me. But you're right. It's like, you are going to have to sacrifice and probably free up your time, maybe put in a little more hours worth of work that week. But if that results in you increasing your income, it's so worth it.
Right, right. And like you said, if you're living below your means, right, then you're already saving so much every month. And then everything else that you're making, right, from whatever this new side gig is, it just goes directly into savings, right? Because we're not using that just to buy more stuff, right? That's all profit right there.
Yes, and you bring up a good point because you have to be careful to avoid the lifestyle creep.
Yes.
That's something I've struggled with. As you make more money, you're tempted to spend more money and sort of increase your quality of life. And trust me, I'm not perfect at any of this. So as we've made more money, yes, our lifestyle has creeped up, but it's just like, let's be intentional, keep it to a minimum, try to make sure that any more money that we're making, we're just putting 100% into savings. And another point, Allison, that I'll share with you, there's something that's said to young people a lot that I don't agree with. Uh-huh. And it's that having being a full-time salaried employee means you're going to have job security and income security. Mm-hmm. And I don't agree with that because if you're 100% dependent on a single source of income, that's not secure. And I think we're seeing that now more than ever during coronavirus. People are getting laid off, their hours are getting reduced. So I like to encourage people to have income diversification. And that just means to have multiple streams of income. That way, if one of your income streams is impacted or reduced, you still have all these other income streams keeping you afloat. So I think it's more important than ever to find ways to start a side hustle or make more money or just have multiple streams of income.
Yes. No, such a good point. It's not just about saving more, right? It's also about diverse insecurity, right? Really that aspect comes down to being secure. And worst case scenario, right? The more diverse your income streams are, losing my words, but yeah.
Better.
Better. There's the word I was looking for.
Yes.
Oh,
yep, for sure.
Cool. So tell me a little bit about your books.
Yeah, so Money Honey is my first book. I wrote it in 2017. And the reason I wrote it is because all my family and friends were coming to me for financial advice. And I loved helping people and everything. But I also wondered, well, why aren't they learning on their own or reading books? And then I had this aha moment and I was like, oh yeah, personal finance is boring, right? It's dull, it's intimidating, it's complex. I was like, no one likes to learn about this stuff. So I thought to myself, well, how can I make this topic fun and sassy and simple? And that's where the idea for Money Honey came from. And it has been more successful than I ever would have imagined. It's really resonated with females, students, millennials, Gen Z. And I think it has over 550 five-star reviews on Amazon now. So
cool.
It's been really great. Yeah. And then my second book, Passive Income Aggressive Retirement, I wrote and launched that last year. And I was starting to get a lot of questions about, hey, Rachel, how are you creating passive income? How are you retiring early and quitting your job? So I began to do a ton of research on all the different ways you could create passive income. And I came up with 28 different passive income models. So trust me when I say there's something out there for everyone.
That's so true. Yes, because I was reading, there's a lot in there. So there's 28. What would you say are like your top 3 favorites?
Well, I have 4 of my own, and
Okay.
I guess I would say they're my favorites because they're the ones that I already do. But first is rental income.
Okay.
I think it's really the holy grail when it comes to passive income, because when you invest in a rental property, not only are you getting that cash flow and that passive income, but you're getting equity built up in your house because your tenant is paying for your mortgage, and you're getting tax benefits. And then as a 4th bonus, which I always count as a bonus, you could also get appreciation. So
Okay.
I think rental income is like the holy grail.
Awesome.
Then you and I are both authors. My favorite passive income stream is definitely the royalties from my books. And that's just because I love to write. I've always loved to write. When I was little, I was writing short stories. And the fact that I can do what I love and make money from it and actually impact other people's lives and really change their lives, like that's been really, really cool for me. So I love the book royalties. And then I would say my 3rd favorite is another, I guess I would call it a royalty stream, but it's the money that I make from my online course. Okay. So I just launched an online money management course that goes along with Money Honey. And it's been really fun working more directly with my readers and being a little bit more hands-on with them. So that's a lot of fun as well.
Awesome. Cool. Wait, was that 4? Or was it 3? Hang on. It was rental.
Oh yeah. My 4th one is good point. My 4th one is a print on demand business.
Okay.
And I only make like a couple $100 per month, but it's totally passive. And the way that works is you basically create designs to go on products.
Okay.
And there's all these platforms, Merch and Teespring and Redbubble, where they have tote bags and phone cases and t-shirts. So you create designs to go on their products. You don't carry an inventory at all. You only get paid when something sells. So that's beautiful because it totally eliminates your financial risk. Yes. And then whenever a product sells, I get paid a royalty. So that one again is very passive, very doable. When people are asking me, how do I start creating passive income? I always tell them the first thing to consider is to ask yourself, do you have more time or more money? Because passive income, it's no get rich quick scheme. It does take time or money to create, right? And then once you create it, then it becomes more hands-off and more passive. Now, if you're anything like I was a few years ago, I would say, well, I don't have either. I don't have time and I don't have money. So the next question to ask yourself is, well, which one would be easier to create? Would it be easier to free up more time or to create more money? And that way you can narrow it down from there. Things like portfolio income, rental income, those will likely take more money to invest to get started. Something like writing a book or starting an online course, or potentially doing starting a blog and figuring out a way to make that passive by outsourcing the writing. Those are all things that require more time and less money. So that's where I would start if you're thinking about creating passive income.
Right. And I think your print on demand idea is actually really interesting. That's something that I'd never really thought about. But, I think because I'm like you, I love to write. So, of course, I naturally gravitate towards writing books. But for people who don't like to write, the idea of tackling that monster of trying to create and write and publish a book, the print on demand is very similar to that, right? And I guess in terms of, you
putting time in,
or actually it's similar to the book in terms of the revenue, but it's a lot less time, and if you're more creative or artistic visually, right, that could be a really good option.
Yes. I mean, there's definitely something out there for everybody to do.
Yeah. Let's see. Other questions?
Do you have any other math questions?
Yeah, maybe what's an example of, financial math? Like maybe what's one example if you could run us through maybe something to do with savings that parents could maybe teach their kids?
Yeah, I there's a lot of finance gurus out there that say, hey, save 15% of your paycheck, save 20% of your paycheck. And I just disagree with that because everyone's financial situation is different. And yeah, maybe someone that's making 400,000 a year could save 20% of their paycheck and be fine. But then on the other hand, a family of four, that's living on 60 or 70,000 a year, like saving 20% of your paycheck, that amount of money is just not going to get you as far. So I always just encourage people to look at your specific circumstances. In Money Honey, I talk about the savings buckets, which I think helps make the savings component a lot more customizable. And if there's anything that's resonated with my readers the most, it would be the savings buckets in the book. Everyone loves those parts. So it basically helps you divide up your savings based on the timeline. So you have your emergency savings, medium-term savings, long-term savings, and retirement. And I think when you can look at it that way and have just specific buckets instead of some overall, save 15%, I think it gets a little bit easier to save.
Right, right. And I think right now is a really good time to think about that. We've had such craziness, I think, going on with employment right now and stuff that it is a really good time to maybe think about, if you haven't been saving all of that much, what sort of emergency fund bucket like would have been ideal in this situation, right?
Exactly. Yes, because I think I read a statistic recently that over 50% of Americans have less than $500 in emergency savings.
Yeah, that's
and that's scary to not have more than that, especially coming into a recession or something we just couldn't have predicted, like the coronavirus. I think this is a great opportunity for all of us to ask ourselves, hey, was I happy with the amount of money I had set aside coming into this? And if not, what can I do differently going forward? Because it's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when these recessions will happen. So it will happen again. And I think this is just a good learning opportunity so that we can better set ourselves up for the future.
Definitely. Yeah, definitely. Oh man, it's after 9:20 already. This went by so fast. I love talking about the finance stuff. I'm trying to think. I think, well, actually, how can people follow up? I'm sure that people will have questions or want to learn more about like your books and your course and stuff like that. How can people follow up with you?
Yeah, thank you. So both of my books, Money Honey and Passive Income Aggressive Retirement, are available on Amazon and Audible. So ebook, paperback, and audio. And then you already said it, so I'm so glad because I am going to just offer your listeners my Passive Income Starter Kit for free. So if anyone wants to get that, you can just go to moneyhoneyrachel.com/bonus.
I know. I was super excited about that. That's really,
yes,
really
thank
cool.
you. Thank you for saying it. Yes.
Cool. Let's see. And then also, I've got open registration right now for my Raise a Math Person membership. So remember, if you want your kids to grow up to be like Money Honey Rachel, right, they need to have really solid math foundations. So you can register for that right now at AllisonLovesMath.com. And I guess before we go, if there's like one piece of advice that you could leave parents with in terms of, financial independence, what would that be?
I would definitely just go back to the math. And I would say, make sure your kids have a solid foundation with math. And it's a tough subject for a lot of people. It doesn't come easily to everybody. I remember in college when I was taking linear algebra, and I had always been kind of a natural with math, but that was the first course that I was like, I don't understand what's going on. And it was awful. And I had never felt that way before. But, I ended up just going to my professor's office hours every single day and getting a tutor on campus. So I would also just encourage parents to make sure your kids know like the resources they can turn to for help, whether it's a free resource or a paid resource. And Allison is a great resource. Her books are amazing. So make sure you go buy her books and leave her a review.
All right. Thank you so much, Rachel. I'm super excited. Thank you so much for coming on today and sharing us all of this helpful information.
Yeah, thank you for having me, Allison.
All right. Bye, everybody.